Hey everybody, what's going on? Rob Sestrino back with you with RHAP's continuing coverage of Survivor 46's post-game. And here with us, a real treat, great friend of the pod. Please welcome back. Call him Cockatoo Boy. It's Omar Zaheer. Omar, how are you?
Kaka, I am great. I'm so happy to be here covering the end of such an iconic, messy as hell season. And thank you for having me. Maybe we'll get messy as hell. Who's to say?
Okay. I hope so. Don't threaten me with a good time, okay? Because we're back here live, and it's been a busy day today. I have conducted 5 exit interviews here with the Survivor 46 Final 5. The video of all of those are now posted on our YouTube channel. The audio, if it's not out yet, should be up soon if you want to check that out. So I have some thoughts off of my exit interviews. Also, all the exit press with the other outlets should be completed by this point. So we know a lot about what the Survivor 46 cast is thinking. And then last night, Jesse Lopez came by here and we talked about it all. If you want to see our live in the heat of the moment recap from last night. Omar, how are you?
I'm doing great. I have been enjoying the season. I've been having a great time listening to all the coverage, and I'm excited to get into last night's episode because it really was a bit of a roller coaster. And you buried the lead with the biggest news from these exit interviews that Liz is not, in fact, a millionaire.
Yes,
Does that mean
big
she's a
news today.
billionaire?
No, Liz says that it was stolen valor. She is not. I don't know how many other people well-known people might be lying about how rich they are, but add Liz to the list.
Yeah, she's like Russell Hantz, but less problematic.
It is like Russell Hantz. That's interesting. Russell Hantz too. Now, Russell Hantz, I don't know necessarily if he was ever going to reveal, because he made it to the final tribal council. He did not reveal that he
did it
actually
for ego, though. Liz did it for strategy because she's a strategic queen.
Yeah. So Liz was telling people in the game that she was a millionaire, and it was talked about quite a bit on the show. But in her confessionals, she says that it was all part of her strategy. But they hid this from us, Omar.
Yeah, but you know what? Maybe she meant she was a millionaire in terms of hearts. I mean, she already had it, whereas Banu had to get it, you know? She had my heart.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Now, does Sia know this? Is somebody needs to be like flagging down Sia and tell her, like, Sia,
distribute her funds appropriately, because otherwise maybe Liz would be the truly robbed one in terms of missing out on this money that she could have been getting because everyone thought she was rich.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So big story. One of the big stories that we're talking about at this hour. We are taking your questions here. We are live here streaming across our social channels. So please, would love to hear what you wanted us to talk about here today. Congratulations to Kenzie. Had a very nice chat with Kenzie this morning, who very deserving winner. I really, there's a lot of controversy this morning about Charlie and Maria's vote, but I just don't want it to get overshadowed about how I don't think we've had, even last season where it was 5-3 Austin versus D, we haven't had in the new era a real battle over who should have won in the final 3.
Well, we haven't. 43 was
but
Jesse not triggered?
But that wasn't. I guess so.
That was more the audience.
I didn't really think about 43, but that was more in the audience. The jury was not conflicted. It wasn't like a close vote like that.
Yeah, and this one also, I loved it because, well, Kenzie's a very deserving winner, so congratulations, Kenzie. I think that Charlie and Kenzie were both presented on the show as not really being very flawed players. They just had different styles. They were coming at it from different parts of the game, and both of them had a very compelling argument to win. So it's like, which one do you value more? You know, Charlie seemed like throughout the game that he had social and strategy. Kenzie had more of the social aspect from what we saw in the game, but obviously that was enough to like maybe overshadow Charlie's game. But I think that, and Ben also, you know, he had his moments too, but obviously it was between the two of them for the final crown. But I think this was very similar in my mind to like Aubrey, Michelle, or even maybe Sandra Parvati.
Yeah, well, let's talk that through a little bit. Aubrey, Michelle, I certainly see that. And, you know, the issue I think with Aubrey and Michelle was I feel like that Michelle did not pop on the TV screen, did not get the edit that Kenzie got. And it took a while before the audience, I think, fell in love with Michelle. And, it's hard, though, but I feel like that Aubrey, her relationships with the jury were not as strong. Like, I think that Charlie actually had a better social game than Aubrey did.
Yeah. Although, it's hard to say because with Aubrey, like it seems like a few poison apples may have spoiled the well there with the athlete alliance. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that with Michelle as well, like she edgically had it, which Kenzie also did, as we love to talk about on the show. I know Steven would be
Mm-hmm.
loving that. But her it just seems like her social pull in the game did allow more tangible moves than we saw Michelle pull off in Co Wrong. Not to say that Michelle's not deserving, because she obviously was as well, and we saw her play a strong game when she came back. But even Kenzie's social pull for someone like Hunter was enough for him to trust in her so much that he didn't play an idol, And I think that that's where her social game translated into strategy that we actually did see on the show.
I feel like that Charlie was such a well-rounded player. I feel like that he was just so well balanced. Like, if I was going to rate him, I feel like he gets like at least 7s, 8s across the board in terms of being a social player and a strategic player and a physical player. But I think that Kenzie's strength in the social game ultimately was the difference maker, where she's somebody who's like, I think, a 9 or a 10 in that one facet of the game. And she won challenges, and she certainly was in on the strategic planning. But I think that part is the most important part in the new era.
I think that that's been the most important part since day dot, as they say in
They
Australia.
dot.
Howdy. Not good day, Australians.
Why are
Yeah,
you brushing up on your Australian?
no reason. You know what? Anyone who's been a fan of Shannon's podcast knows that I have done an Australian accent since also day dot. So this is nothing
Yes.
new.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, I do
I would
think
lose
that
that also.
you would lose the Australian
Accent. Mm-hmm.
accent, just the accent. Okay, gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But even since your season, Rob, Amazon, did Jenna not have a much stronger social
Okay,
game?
so I happened to say, last night I tweeted, Malcolm voted for Denise in the midst of all
10
that.
out of 10, no
And,
notes.
and I did check out the Survivor subreddit today, and I went to see what are people talking about today. And that tweet was up there, and then somebody in the comments said, well, Rob voted for Jenna. And I was like, how dare you? How dare you? And I really, I didn't want to have cognitive dissonance. And I really was trying to think about this. And really, there was a glimmer in Jenna's eye that I saw when she won the final 3 immunity challenge that really won. No, in all seriousness,
You're doing a spin, Rob. You were having your hands up like this. You couldn't look
that's
over at
fair.
her, or maybe that's why
that
you
is
lost.
that is fair. Matthew was not my number one throughout the game. There was a point, and maybe I am a bitter juror. Maybe I'll own that. But I felt very disappointed in Matthew of hey, me and you, we're gonna go to the end, and I didn't like that Matthew, wanted to do his own thing, and it's like, wait, you're gonna go to the end without me? You're gonna throw this challenge and not even try to win it for us?
That was a really good move for him. I'm not gonna lie.
It was a bad move for him. He would have got more votes against me.
You think so? No way.
But and to me, that was another misread of the whole situation. And Jenna certainly had low moments where she wanted to quit the game. I didn't think we were going to do Survivor Amazon breakdown today.
Yeah.
But Jenna and I were close friends throughout the game. So I guess you do have a point of the person that I had great moments with Jenna, and I was also at war with Jenna. But at the end of the day, that Jenna was generally much more well liked across the board.
Yeah, I think even all the way back then and beyond, I think the social game has always been the most important thing in terms of people will always vote for who they like the best, and then they'll find the reasons to do that based on the framework of the social contract, I guess you could say. And
Mhm.
this year's social contract is a lot more unhinged because these people are wild. So you might get things like the glint in their eye at a fire making challenge, as opposed to something that's more digestible to the grander audience.
Yeah. To me, I feel like that when we take a look at these 6 seasons in the new era, I really feel like it's really this incredible social game, but it's kind of like it has to be like a little bit
Hmm.
hidden for one
Yeah.
reason or another, especially like when we look at like the through line of specifically Kenzie and then Jam Jam, Marianne for sure. I think Gabler in a way was somebody who that people don't love Gabler as a winner, but the people who played with him tell you like, oh, like he was like,
Hmm.
so much fun to be around. And
Yeah.
they really enjoyed Gabler's company. I think that that's the reason. Um, I don't know Erica well, but
Oh,
I, I,
she's got a glimmer too.
I assume, that there's something there also in terms of like having like some kind of charisma.
Yep.
So I think that that's and D. I feel like it's different. D. I think is more of like a traditional Survivor winner of somebody who like really shines in all the facets of the game. But I think for these other players, they had this social game, but for one reason or another, they were able to camouflage it as compared to like a Caleb,
Hmm.
who's somebody who has no camouflage,
He's whizzes off the charts.
but that's a disaster.
Yeah. But the thing is, I disagree about D. I think that she is a classic winner in some ways, but she still had cover. She still had camouflage. She was still able to operate within an alliance of
She was
four.
insulated. I don't think she
Yes.
was camouflaged.
You don't think she was camouflaged?
No, I don't think that D had a
Hmm.
camouflage. What
I
what
just felt
what
like she had like she's hunting in a pack with, Drew, who is exceptionally strategic and well spoken. You have Julie, who has an exceptional social game. You have Austin, who's a very well rounded competitor, very similar to Charlie, actually. And so within that framework, she doesn't stand out above all the rest as so much more superior and can kind of hide within that little pack hunting mentality. And I think that the rest of these winners as well, Marianne is an example where if somebody who hid their game for a very long time and came out with a very big move at the end. And I think that that is kind of the way to win the new era. And that's also why, I think previously there was a lot of recruits, a lot of people who didn't know the game very well. So you could easily have somebody run the game from day one, day dot, as they say, all the way to the end. But now people are too savvy to allow that to happen. So that's why, you try to hide your moves and give credit to other people until
yeah.
it's too late. But once you're exposed, you're gone.
Yeah. And you were somebody who was really good at hiding what you were doing, and they still caught you. They still got
Yes,
you.
they still did. It's a pesky Marianne. I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for that meddling kid. But she is, I mean, it seems to be that that's the way you want to win. And I think that, somebody who highlighted a strategy similar to that, I remember Kim Spradlin Wolf's interview
Yes.
of being in the middle. You don't want to be the most social, the most strategic, the most anything, just hide right in the middle. But you don't want to be the least either. And I think that that really is the recipe for success, especially in the new era where everybody's very savvy. If you
Yeah.
have somebody that has greater cover than you, and Kenzie maybe wasn't coming across as big of a threat because you had somebody like Charlie who was strategically playing the game, or Maria who was a big threat as well, and so she could kind of hide how lethal that social game was.
Omar, I feel like there's such a disconnect between the players and the jurors in terms of what they need to do to win the game. Somehow, the same human beings, when they sit on the beach, they talk about how like, oh, gotta have a resume, gotta make the big moves, I gotta have something to show. But when we take a look at why the people vote the way they vote, it does not seem as though that there's a lot of people that are necessarily voting for that this person, oh, the resume was
Should we
stellar.
get deep on this issue? Because I have some thoughts.
I would love to. I have some
Okay.
thoughts as well.
Yeah. So I think that it's a lot of people will I've seen a lot of things. For a while people were blaming a bitter jury. Then people were saying, oh, well, it's on the finalists for them to vote people out in a way that still allows them to vote for you. But I will say, now having lived through the experience, it can be very unpredictable in terms of how somebody is in the game and then how they are out of the game. And the reason that I think that that is the case is that this game is very passionate. Everybody loves it, but it is a traumatic experience to some extent. And that doesn't necessarily mean a bad experience, but it is a very intense, emotional, and physical experience, which is going to result in intense emotions. And so much of your success in the game is tied to your own self-worth. And nobody knows what it's like to be voted out until you're voted out. And it's almost like everything you knew, especially if you're blindsided, everything you knew is put into question. It's like this vacuum or this supernova that goes off, and what's left in the wake of that. And what could be left in the wake of that is either you blame yourself and then have introspection and then don't really put that on other people, or it could be a situation where you want to protect your own ego, your own identity, your own self-worth, and so you put that onto other people. So I think, and then also as people come into the jury, you have people that they don't know all of the information. So they're getting bits and pieces of information. And if they're not willing to listen and sit down with themselves and say, hey, we don't actually know all the information until we listen to the finalists, then you're going to get a situation where decisions are made with incomplete information and something that's filling a very large emotional vacuum.
Yeah. It's so interesting to me because I was thinking this morning about, okay, Kenzie got 5 votes from the jury. And I think that the 5 votes that she got were for all different reasons.
Yes.
They were all over the map. The
Yeah.
the reasons why Kenzie got 5 votes. And I think that Kenzie, the player, probably has no idea what is going to be the thing that is going to make each person vote for her. She got a vote from Tevin, who, and I haven't seen Tevin do an interview for this, but I think that the reason why Tevin seemed conflicted, but in my mind, I think that Tevin looked at Kenzie as the person who was able to play the game that Tevin wanted to play.
Yeah. I think that the thing is, I think everybody has a different criteria. And I do think we have to take it off of the finalists in some capacity to know exactly what these people are going to want. But maybe the way in which that they kind of cope with or adapt to that is giving answers that cover a broad spectrum of things, like some that are more life based, some that are more strategic based, some that are more social based, but making sure that those views don't conflict with one another. Because obviously, if you have somebody saying, I played very strategically, and then the next breath saying, I really had honor and integrity, that will not, jive very well. But I think it is to kind of cover different, don't only focus on the game when you're answering at Final Tribal.
Yeah. So then the other 4 votes that Kenzie got, I feel like that Tiffany is okay. Tiffany was her day 1 person. Kenzie wanted to vote her out. It didn't ultimately come to pass. And so that totally, you get that. Venus, I think, is probably the same category as Tiffany, where that Venus and Kenzie seemed like that they had a little bit of a bond. And we saw it, especially in the episode where Venus went out. It wasn't super explored on the show. We have Maria, who says she voted for Kenzie because that she saw the look in Kenzie's eye when she made the fire. She told me this morning that it was a look that she saw herself in Kenzie when she saw her end up making the fire. And Q voted for Kenzie because he said that she answered his question correctly. He didn't listen to what anybody else said. He only listened to what she said to his question, and he liked her answer.
Right. I mean, Q is playing the Q game. So, I mean, I think if you are thinking about it from a finalist perspective, in a sense, I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm like, okay, I can see how you could potentially, if we have the concept that people also want to mirror their own gameplay and who they want to vote for, I think that that's a very natural thing. So then you do have to maybe look less at yourself at a time as a finalist and more as to who you're speaking with and what traits they exemplified and valued in the game, and tailor your answer to that. But at the same time, I think it's hard because listening to Charlie's, even his exit interview saying, he was basically told on the way out that Maria was going to vote for him. There was not much more he could do or foresee. Like, I see that. Like, I just don't see what Charlie could have done differently. And I think that he did have an argument for, if he won, to possibly be, the strongest player in the new era because of how well-rounded that he was. And I know that was a discussion you and Steven had, and I still think that he played a very, very good game, but it doesn't make Kenzie, undeserving. I think they both played a very strong game. And I thought it was interesting how the jurors valued this decision, based on the edit, also being a player who was strategically driven, I could see gravitating more towards Charlie, but at the same time, I get why Kenzie won as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting that we end up in this situation with these two both in the final three. And I think it really took a player, like a player with like really strong emotional ties, like Ben, winning the final four immunity challenge to, okay, I'm going to make the pick of like, I'm not going to try to take out the threats
Yeah.
here. I'm going to take a threat with me. Ben said he thought Charlie had it wrapped up. He thought that
Right.
like, okay, I'm excited for my guy is going to win the game. And then, okay, Kenzie and Liz, go for it. You make the fire, but this is probably going to be Charlie's thing. And so Ben was not thinking about like, okay, how do I take out a threat here at the final four?
Okay, so they presented it a different way on the show. So that's good
Yes.
to know for context that Liz was not his like big ultimate final boss. So that's although she is, I would like her to be my final boss.
Yeah, and that's some supposition on my. I don't think that that's exactly what Ben said this morning, but I did ask him about whether or not Liz and he was very complimentary of Liz, but did not describe her as like a ultimate threat that was going to win the game had she gotten to the end.
I do want to get into Ben's reasonings and also what they talked about fire because that really grinded my gears a little bit. But before I get into that, I want to know what Liz should have done differently to strengthen her wrists.
Grip strength.
Yeah, like give us some examples. I'd like to know what young Rob would have said.
I think that look, Charlie had the machine that I don't know if that's gonna like tighten your ligaments.
I guess we could go back to Amazon, Rob. I'm sure he would have had a few ideas.
Maybe.
But yeah, but you know what really grinds my gears about this fire thing
What?
is that people have won the game being taken to the end. People
Yes.
have won the game winning the immunity and keeping it. People have won the game giving up immunity and making fire, and people have been won the game being put into fire. I hate this new weird culture that people are pointing to of you didn't put yourself into fire or you didn't go against that person in
Yeah.
fire because it is like why are we not celebrating Eric giving up immunity? Like that is just
Right.
it's situational. It doesn't make sense to do that all the time. And I would say most of the time it does not make sense to give up your immunity necklace or volunteer to go into a situation where you have a 50-50 shot of staying.
I don't think that Charlie lost a vote because of not going into the fire, unless you are saying, okay, that Maria is, that was the difference maker, the look in Kenzie's eye, because Charlie said that the fire making actually took quite some time. He thought it was going to have to go to matches. He thought that it was,
Ooh,
it went on and on and on. And he did not think that the fire making turned out to be that impressive.
Right. Right. And I think that, yeah, we don't see all of that. It was brought up at Final Tribal. It was a big theme of 43. It's kind of annoying. Like it's unnecessary. We've also seen people take that, like give up immunity and still lose at the end, like Heidi did. So like, this is not, I hate this. I hate it so much. I think there are certain situations like Chris Underwood and even Heidi, I think made the right decision in their particular spot. But I don't like that this has become a negative for people that don't, because I see it as a very strong move for Charlie to be brought to the end based on his social game. Like Ben is willing to go against him. Like I think that's good. Why are we not rewarding that in the new era?
Yeah, I absolutely thought that maybe Hunter might have penalized Charlie for that, but he ended up being a Charlie vote. So he looked a little bit like, I feel like you're playing it a little safe. He's like, no, absolutely not. Yeah. So Charlie, if Charlie would have voted for Kenzie in that spot, which I originally thought he would, I would have pointed to that. But I don't think that there was unless you say the Maria vote was based off of that. Can I tell you something else that was interesting in my exit interviews between talking with Charlie and talking with Maria? There was one piece in particular that there was a delta in between what they said in the interviews, and I want to try to handle this delicately, because I don't know if maybe one of them is misinformed about this, but Charlie, in his exit interview,
what is it, delta? I'm very distracted.
There's a difference. There's
right. Like a change.
There's a distance in between what the two of them had said. So, in talking with Maria, actually, let me do this in order of that I spoke to them. In talking with Charlie, he had told me about how that when he left things with Maria, where Maria said, "I'm going to vote for you." But according to Charlie, and this is hearsay because he was not there, he said that, then Tiffany revealed to Maria that Charlie was planning on, and Tiffany talked about this in her exit in her exit press, that Charlie was talking about how, okay, let's use Tiffany's idol to blindside Maria. And Charlie had been working to get Maria out of the game. And obviously, Tiffany was a very pro Kenzie person. Tiffany, very charismatic player. That a lot of people told me today that they thought, or certainly Ben did, that it was Tiffany's game to lose. They looked at Tiffany as this very, very big threat, somebody who holds a lot of influence.
Yeah.
Okay. And Charlie thought that maybe that Tiffany had influenced Maria's thinking coming into the final tribal council. I had asked Maria about, you at the final tribal council, you seem to know that Charlie was coming for you, but you left the game not knowing that information. She said she did not know that Charlie was coming for her until the final tribal council, is what Maria said.
Right. Interesting. I mean, I think that people, Ponderosa is a game in itself, and also praise.
We're not here to talk about that, Omar.
Yeah, it's not even me this time. They're messing on their own. But it is a game in itself, like, because people are interacting and they're able to speak, and some people may be more impressionable than others, and some people may be completely turned off by campaigning for people. So it's hard to, again, without knowing what the interactions are, and to some extent, we have to take it at face value. It doesn't make a lot of sense for Maria to be upset that Charlie was coming after her in the game, because she was going after him as well. So if that is the rationale, it's not very consistent. But at the same time, I don't know if we've heard that from Maria herself. So
we have not.
Yeah,
so that's why I say take this with a grain of salt. But I just thought that was interesting in my two conversations, that there were two different versions of what changed between Maria leaving the game and then coming in. Because I thought that what was interesting was that tradition in the history of the final tribal council, I think we have like one of two things that tend to happen when you have these people that work together, and then that there is some kind of a betrayal. That more often than not, I feel like we see somebody come in and a very icy stare, and it's like, Omar, where do you get off? I'm sure this is probably, were you this way with Marianne? Of like, you're like, boy, you're dead to me. But then ultimately they go in the voting booth and they write the person's name down. That's we also have the version.
That was classic Malcolm.
Classic Malcolm. Classic Trish.
Yes. Yeah. Queen.
Yes.
Did you see that Cass posted that they had to refilm that? That's so funny.
Yes, she did say that. We also have where the Sue Hawk, where it's a very like, okay, you made a big mistake, Kelly. You're dead to me. If I ever see you walking in line, I'll leave you on the side of the road to let the vultures do with you what they will.
Yes,
dying of thirst.
Reed Kelly. Well, actually, they weren't really allies.
Right. Yeah. So either people come in and they're like, they rip you a new one and vote for the other person, or they rip you a new one and they vote for you. I think this is very rare.
And the
that
worst
they don't,
is when they rip you a new one, make you take your teeth out, and then don't vote for you.
And then don't vote for you. But this is, I feel like, new, of like, not really going to tip you off, but then here's the dagger in the voting
knife. Yeah. I mean, that's why I kind of think that maybe there really was some true indecision there about what the final vote was going to be. And I think maybe it is more a matter of, Kenzie's story and Kenzie's game resonated with Maria as a person outside of the game. And as, her identity of being a young woman that wants to start a family and doing something for herself, based on the interview that I had seen.
Yeah, so, and that's what she told me as well. She said that she was walking to the voting with Charlie Kenzie.
Yeah. So maybe it is like it does not have anything to do with less to do with Charlie, which is just interesting because they had such a long-standing relationship in the game. I think that it also depends how you view the game yourself. Like, I think that, me playing the game, I would probably want to be judged based on what happened in the game as opposed to outside factors. And so that's probably more how I would vote. But I guess, did you have that in your experience? Because I felt for the most part on our season, it mostly was what happened in the game that people were voting about. But did outside factors play a role for you? And social game ties in, I get that. But Maria, there's no question, had more of a game relationship with Charlie. So I think if you're judging by game only, like, it's hard to go the other way. But what do you think?
So as far as me as a juror,
Like your experience as a juror, and also even not being on the jury in All Stars, but being there, was it outside of the game factors? Well, actually, that's a whole can of worms because there was all those pre-game relationships that time.
yeah.
But in Amazon, like, were people really wanting to award the money to Jenna outside of the game reasons, or strictly in the game?
So in Survivor the Amazon, I remember I came in and I really did feel like, at least in my mind, I was open-minded about which way it could have gone. I think it was a little bit of a different story in Survivor the Amazon, where I feel like that the feeling was like, can you believe this is the final two? And we have that in some seasons where it's like, how did these people make it to the end? This is, I think, a little bit, I don't know, maybe the jury was feeling like that, but it was like, okay, we have two pretty worthy winners here in Kenzie or Charlie. So I think that was maybe a tougher decision. Whereas we're like, okay, well, what's the best out of these two? Even Heidi was like, don't you think there's anybody else that should have been up there? Anybody else after that? But so
she was trying to get her to say Dina.
So I came in, I felt like very open-minded, but I do feel like that Matthew had and maybe it's like an underreported story. It was not a very strong final tribal council.
You're not a big
he did
Colin
not
Powell
command
guy?
the room. Yes.
Gotcha.
Who's your role model in life? My role model is Colin Powell.
Go off, King. All right. Wait, who is Colin Powell? I don't really know.
No relation to Stacey Powell.
Oh, damn. That would have gotten me right there. If he would have said Stacey Powell, I would have voted for him retroactively.
Yes. Okay. But that was, he would have had to have known her outside the game at that particular point in time. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about Kenzie's game some more, because I think it's so interesting, Omar, that I think that Kenzie had so many obstacles that were in her way, but that when we look back at it, I think that there were things that really ultimately helped her.
Like, you have something in mind, because I also do.
Yeah, I mean, we could go through it, but would love to hear you respond to that.
I think that Kenzie, between you and Fishback, who is the know-it-all? Who is the ultimate know-it-all? And you did say something that rang true in this situation, in that Kenzie, I think, is one of those players that does not have to do anything specific to win the game.
Yes.
Because she is such a strong player socially on her own that, if she does something that's too gregarious strategically, she's probably going to be a target before the end. So why are you going to do that and put yourself out there? That's kind of dumb. But she's able to kind of stay within a larger group of the outsiders that were outside of the six. That was more of a curse than an alliance. And she's able to kind of work her social game and do very subtle things, like get Hunter to not play his idol to make it to the end, but to the point where she's not viewed as such someone that has to go. But just the fact that she could get there is enough. And so I think it really was the power. She is like the epitome of like a very powerful social player.
Yeah. And it's incredible because even one of her immunity wins that we saw last night was social, like an immunity win that came because of like her great social game that Liz wanted to help her win and also help Maria lose. But that I thought that was very powerful in terms of like what she was able to bring to the table. But in terms of like some of like the things that like on paper were unfortunate, where being a part of Yanu, and then also being on a tribe with Q, who was like this very like domineering presence, who really, I felt like in the beginning of the game, we saw Kenzie like fan out and have like a lot of working with Jelinski and we're working with Jess and had a lot of different things going on. And we saw Q like override a couple times, like, no, Jelinski, I'm making the call. He's going to go. And I think it was probably hard for Kenzie to, really have a say in what was going on at Yanu. But I think ultimately that proves to be, kind of a blessing for her. Even Q makes the 6. and leaves her
Mhm.
out of it. And then ultimately, it's all people who were left out of the 6 that go on to be the final 4 in the game.
I think there is also something about that special thing about being on the tribe that sucks, that does endear people towards you in terms of like, look at that Cinderella story. Which, I don't know if that's fair or not, because at the other hand, you could look at somebody that was on a dominating tribe and be like, wow, they really like killed it. And it's not like this was an intentional Matt Singh situation. They
Mhm.
just sucked. But yes, I think overcoming that adversity in terms of, the tribe she was on, playing with such unpredictable players, it does elevate her game in a way that is independent of what she was still able to navigate that, but those are factors outside of herself. But I think that is like, do you think that this puts a target on the backs of people who, like, you had Jam Jam coming from a small tribe, you had obviously success with Kenzie this time.
Yeah.
Is it and then the other times I feel like with Ua, they didn't make it to the end. And I don't know if there was any other really small tribe. And
I
then,
don't think that
Zulu, they got voted out.
this season in particular that's going to be the takeaway in terms of,
Mhm.
but because that the Yanu 3 was so just
Chaotic.
like so chaotic, and it was like Q was just his own thing. So I don't think that this is like that we are going to look at these 3 like Tika.
Mhm. Yeah, that's fair because they did not
You know, and
stick
Emily
together.
and Caleb like didn't go on to like have this great run ultimately. So I don't
Mhm.
think that necessarily people are going to be that worried about it like they might have been post Tika 3
Malcolm and Denise back in the
or
day.
Malcolm and Denise. But
Yeah.
um so also for Kenzie, add her to the list of people that ends up having their number one blindsided, not taken out by themselves, not
Right.
but this is like a very powerful thing for people that sometimes you have a close ally who you're going to be jockeying with at the end of the game for, positioning of who's
Yeah.
going to get it. And, we had, of course, Natalie Anderson. I think that this was something that helped Jeremy in Second Chances when Andrew Savage got taken out with the Wentworth Idol. I think this was something that helped Cochran in Survivor Caramoan when Philip got
Mhm.
blindsided. And I think that this was a good thing for Kenzie ultimately when what happened with Tiffany. Tiffany gets taken out of the game, and it's like, oh, this is a disaster for my game. We'll see.
Yeah, I think that is also very true. And I think the interesting thing, which I don't remember Charlie saying, but I could have missed it. So remind me if I'm wrong. But as far as I know, other than the Venus vote at the merge, which was an intentional part of Charlie's game to put a shot in the dark out there, it seems like Charlie was never blindsided. And so he was kind of in on every single vote, whereas Kenzie was obviously not in on the Tiffany vote. So
Mhm.
is that not an argument you should be pushing as a finalist to be like, I was in on every single plan? And I mean, the other 2 were not. So that's a very easy thing to say. But did he say that? Because I don't remember that.
We didn't see it, I don't
Mhm.
believe. It doesn't mean that he didn't say it, but
Mhm.
I mean, do you think that would have changed one of the votes?
I mean, I think I think it very well could have, because I guess at the end of the day, these people were like looking for, what's your strategic move? How did you run the game or drive the game? And I think being in on every vote and and having a key role in some of them, like I think maybe Charlie shouldn't have sold the Hunter thing as much as the Venus thing,
Mhm.
because that was very clearly his move. But I think that that's something that is very objectively stands out. But it definitely does help you to have somebody that's on the jury that is your alliance member that you had nothing, because the thing is, even if people are not outright campaigning like vote for Kenzie to win, there is a culture that is set up when you have people go out and they feel positively about you, like the framework in which you're spoken about will be more positive, which will leach onto other people as well.
Yeah.
And they may not bring up things that you did that were bad because they look at you favorably. So I think that it does set up, but it's like, how do you can't really, who actually did that very well to some extent was Sarah Lacina, who I don't love to credit with a lot, but I mean, her sending out Sierra Dawn Thomas um, under the pretense that she was working with her, that's something where you can achieve that sort of outcome without but while still having the agency. Although at the end of the day, I think Sierra voted for Brad, but she didn't know
Mhm.
for a while that it was Sarah that did it.
Yeah. Let me float something past you in terms of the jury makeup and tell me what you think about this. That it feels like to me that the people who are the early jury members, those are the people that they care more about resume. The
Mhm.
people who get further in the game care more about vibes and how you made them feel.
Yeah. And I mean, we saw that very, very clearly with Ghost Island. There's the first five jurors all voted for Dominic. The last five jurors all voted for Wendell. So
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. I think that it's because they're not involved in the game past where they go. So that all they see is tribal, all they see are the flashy moves, which is why a smaller jury can have a different vibe than a bigger jury as well.
Mhm.
I think it's nice to have a mixture of people, but I do think there's a disproportionate amount of influence that early jurors can have and late jurors can have, because obviously the late jurors are coming out with very fresh information and the early ones are the ones that set up the vibe the whole time, and it's the people in the middle that I feel like get lost a little bit.
I feel like that the players think about this more on Big Brother, about who do we want to send to the jury when. Do you
Mhm.
think that Survivor players should think about the order of who they send to the jury and also the types of things you want to be doing in the game at certain times? Like, is
Mhm.
there a way to sort of like optimize how you play the game? Or are we just way overcomplicating a game that we started this conversation in saying, like, hey, whoever's got the best social game in Riz, that person's gonna win.
I think ultimately that is the most important thing, but that doesn't mean it's the only thing. And so I do think there is something to how you put people on the jury and whatnot. The problem is, again, like we talked about earlier, sometimes you actually just have no idea what they're going to think on the jury. And I say that as, again, I've experienced that. I've had people in the game be like, this is a game, it's only about the game, and then on the jury that's the opposite of how they think, and there's no way to foresee that really. So in some context, yes, but I do think that you can take some general key concepts away, and the first person, the mayor of Ponderosa, really sets the vibe. So you probably
Yeah.
don't want to send out somebody that you're really, digging the knife into and twisting it at that point, I think.
Yeah.
I think
And I
that's
thought
one
Soda was a
takeaway.
really good mayor of
Very good. Yeah.
Ponderosa. I thought she did very, very well. Yeah, I really felt like that her and Hunter, and I guess they're teachers, right? That
Yeah.
I thought they both did a really good job of, like, I felt like they took their job as jurors like very seriously. They were really, I thought, like, in both in play for both Charlie and Kenzie,
Mhm.
and like I thought really weighed the facts. And I thought that it was interesting that they were the people that they were the Charlie votes along
Mhm.
with Liz. Like the
Yeah.
people that were like the most like analytical of the jurors went with Charlie.
Right, right. And it's interesting because from the final tribal that I saw, it seemed like Kenzie gave some very good answers. Like sometimes the way she spoke with her humility in terms of like, I came here to make friends, and she wasn't taking more credit than she deserved, but was still able to be very sincere. I thought that that would have resonated more, but again, Charlie's answers on paper were very good as well. So I can see from an analytical perspective, like Hunter saying, "Oh, in the last two tribal councils, he took the foot off the gas," but like, what else was he supposed to do? And he
Mhm.
articulated that right. Like he should be
Yeah.
taking out Maria, and then he should be allow himself to get taken to the end, and he articulated that, and the people that were listening for that sort of thing, they did kind of vote for him. So I think that I think Soda, I agree. Soda and Hunter were very good in terms of being jury for people in that sense. And I think that the takeaway message for people, like putting people on the jury, is yes, like it's hard to plan to get your closest ally on the jury without you knowing anything about it, but you can avoid putting certain people on the jury very early or eliminating them pre-merge or whatever it may be.
In hindsight, I feel like that Charlie got screwed pretty bad. And, so I mean screwed in terms of like it was unfortunate for him that Maria won the immunity at 7 and at 6, because I feel
Mm.
like that he was just seemingly missing that one head on a pike that he could have
Right.
shown to that jury that would have like put it out of reach for Kenzie. And
But
the
do you think
fact
he would have
that
been a target and gone home
that's
earlier?
the thing. That's the
Yeah.
thing. And he did not win those final immunities. I mean, I think
Yeah.
he probably would have won in a fire making if he got thrown into it. But if he would have taken the shot at Maria, what do you think is a better outcome for Charlie? Is it better to have, gotten the shot in on Maria and then gone out like a la a Jesse, or have
Right.
gotten to the end and been a losing finalist?
I think that that's hard because I also took a shot early and then got voted out because of it, and I felt like I think in the Jesse situation, it's better. I think it's better to take your shot and know that you
I
have
think so.
the winning game at the
'Cause then you
end.
can always say like, I was gonna win. I'm the
Yeah.
you should have won guy,
Yes.
or the one you should have won gal.
Yeah, I think, take those risks and do it, and, I'm sure that's what casting would want you to say too, so
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about that challenge that Kenzie won last night and how Liz helped out
iconic.
Kenzie win it. You put so much thought into this. I think you are just one of the most knowledgeable people that there is.
That's so sweet.
I blush at just how little Survivor I know compared to you.
Aw,
How do you think about this? Because this was,
Kristen?
I feel like I don't know how to feel about the way that Maria lost this challenge.
Right. You know who did not like it? Marianne. I don't know if she want me
Marianne
to
didn't
say
like
that.
it. Okay, tell me more
Marianne
about
did
that.
not like it, and I actually agree with Marianne's reasoning, and here's why. Well, first of all, I feel like there's been historical precedent on the show that you cannot interfere with somebody else's shit. So drop your Albert, pick up my pieces. Like that was not allowed
Jeff said
explicitly.
no.
Maybe it's because Ozzy was on the other end of that. Who's to say? But it was explicitly not allowed. And then what Marianne had pointed out that I thought was and I agree 100% is if Liz is allowed to go out onto the course and take Kenzie's piece of the puzzle or whatever, what is to stop her from then taking Maria's and hiding it or throwing it away? Like, I don't think that makes a lot of
Mhm.
sense. I think that if you're going to do this, you cannot leave your lane. Like, I think Liz should have to stay in her own lane, cannot go
Yeah.
get Kenzie's piece. If she's going to go back and from a distance count it, I think that's fair game. But it's
Yeah.
kind of like it could leave I'm surprised actually Maria was not more sour about that in particular because I would have been annoyed for sure.
She said that she's had many sleepless nights about it when I asked her that question this morning. But yeah, I feel like that. I feel the same way. I feel like that if Liz went down and counted holes in the board and
Yeah.
then came back and relayed that information, that to me, I think is fine. But the
Yeah.
fact that she's able to go get the piece and bring it, I mean, to me, it does feel a little bit like that. I've been describing this as a slippery slope. Let's say hypothetically, it's Survivor 42, and say Jonathan is like on this run, and and Jonathan could win immunities. Okay,
Yeah.
and you're like, all right, that's it. Tomorrow we gotta stop Jonathan. So the four of us, we're gonna work together in the challenge and make sure in the individual immunity challenge that we're going to do whatever. Now, there are other times that we've seen, like
Mhm.
Survivor Guatemala. We have a game where that I think they did it in Palau also to Stephanie, where I could be getting that one wrong.
Or
But
Rafe or Judd told Rafe what the answer to one of the word puzzle was.
right, but I'm saying that they sometimes they play the game where you flip over the
Oh, yeah, yeah,
tiles
yeah,
and
yeah,
you
yeah,
try to
yeah,
like
yeah.
box somebody
You
out,
work
and
together. It's like a
everybody's
coconut shop.
working together to take
Mhm.
somebody out. Like that's different. That's like sort of like baked into that game.
Yes.
But I think that they need to look at this.
I think I agree they need to look at it, but also we should not blame like Carson doing the puzzles. That was good, smart strategy. That's on the game masters to change the ability to do that. And they
Mhm.
have done that for the most part. I think that Liz, Queen, ask for forgiveness, not permission. You do what you need
Yeah.
to do. That was a smart move,
Well,
but I think they need to make people stay in their lane. I think you can help somebody remotely. Like, I don't see why Liz can't help her shout answers to her.
and you know what part of the problem was on this was that there was like a surprise twist in the
Yeah.
challenge. So typically survivors like Jeff, like, I'll show you the challenge, and then everybody gets to go through and they show you all the different parts, and you get to ask whatever. Can I throw my sandbags at his target? And no, you can't do that. It's not
Yeah.
allowed. Okay, they get a call, but this was like a surprise to the players that there was going to be this part. So there was not the opportunity to go and like, hey, can I go and help Kenzie? Jeff had to make this call like on the fly.
Mhm. Yeah.
Now, again, they can, if they want to, like, whoa, stop the challenge. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
They're
I mean,
within their
I've
right to do that.
experienced that before, so they definitely could do it. I think because there was no, I guess, it wasn't clearly outlawed, they had to allow it to happen, but I do not think that that will be allowed moving forward. I think people will have to stay in their lane. I
Mhm.
think that the reason they don't do stuff like the flipping of the tiles is because it takes, like, what is the benefit from a TV perspective of just teaming up on the person that's gonna, like, the drama is whether or not that person can win. And if you're having a situation where they can't win because of collusion, that is bad TV. But in this situation, I thought it was compelling, but I do think they need to change it moving forward.
Yeah, and they also have the standards and practices as part of this, and fairness people. So, like, if they felt like that this was something that was beyond the pale, I do think they would have
But
stopped
do
the
you think
challenge.
also, like, Maria has had sleepless nights about this, she said, but on the show, from what we saw, was very non-confrontational, non-upset about this, to
Oh,
the
I thought
point
she was
where it
very upset. I
seems,
thought that she was like very. She read as very angry about it. I was like,
but
it's
not
fine,
outwardly.
it's fine, it's
But
good.
do you think that, like, bottling that up is also something that can play a factor in
Ooh,
decisions made later on? Because if you don't have an outlet for your
but she voted
upsetness,
for Kenzie. Like, I kind of feel like if she was
that's
bitter
true.
towards Kenzie about that, then I would say like, okay, well maybe it has to do with the puzzle.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. But okay. Yeah, I mean, she was very classy about not saying anything in the moment, but I could not, that would really have grounded my gears
Hmm.
had it been me.
Omar, what else about this finale and this season have you been thinking about?
I think that Q and Venus in particular were like electric players to watch. They were so fun. And I think the level of, angst amongst this cast has just been very entertaining. And I'm glad
What do you
it's
mean
been
angst?
allowed. You've seen some Twitter brawls out there. We've all seen it.
Yes. Yes. Well, as a historian of the game and certainly an keen observer of the new era, what was it about this cast? Was it just that we're this far into the new era and this is what it's like, or do you feel like that there was something special about this particular cast was the secret sauce?
I honestly, your guess is as good as mine because you'll have all of these seasons in a row with like relatively similar gameplay. Even sister seasons can be very similar, but 45 was the opposite of maybe, Bruce and Katura should have been on this season and then it swapped it out with the most congenial ones here. And then that would have been electric. But I think
Who
that
from 46 should have gone to 45?
I
Let's
think,
switch it out.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So Jeff,
Ben, put Ben into season
Ben
45.
and Mo, no?
Ben and Mariah,
Mo
yeah,
do.
okay, they think they fit in great.
Yeah, they're the most congenial potentially. Well, Charlie's pretty congenial too. But my
Mhm.
final
Although, but
call will
he's
be
ultimately ends up with, like, ironically, the bad blood.
yes. So let's go with Mo and Ben. You're going to 45. And Bruce and
Mhm. Bruce
Katura,
Couture.
you're in this season. But every so often you have a Gabon. And where the hell did that come from? Like
Mhm.
sometimes there's just a conglomeration of people that do not mesh and it's iconic. And we had that with Gabon. There was what other seasons have been like that?
What, just
Just chaos, a mess.
chaos and mess.
Oh, Cagayan.
Cagayan,
They
certainly.
were brawling the hell out of Twitter back in the
Maybe it's
day.
once every 10 years.
Yeah, yeah. I can't wait for the 10 years from now. Who's to say?
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, really, 17, 28, 36. Like, so
And you
four.
even have
I'm
Venus
sorry. I'm
brawling
sorry.
with a building. Like, and
Yes.
honestly, if you're gonna be brawling with a building, like, why aren't you going after that bitch ass Seattle Space Needle? Like, come on.
Well, sure, it wasn't in Seattle, but do you think that, what is it, the Sky Tower back
Is that
in
what it's called?
Toronto?
Oh,
I don't know.
CN Tower,
CN
Rob.
Tower. Sorry
Yeah.
about that.
Have
Oh,
you been up the CN Tower? I haven't.
I've not.
Okay, me neither. Should probably
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Not that far from here.
Okay. We have questions from the audience too. Now, do you feel like that did this season change the show in that did Survivor 46 give Survivor and Jeff ultimately, like, is Jeff going to be spicier? Is the cast going to be spicier? Should we expect a Survivor 40 several that's going to be more like Survivor 46 or more like Survivor 45?
I think Well, I mean, I think we're gonna see more of 45 because I feel
Hmm.
like this is like the cicadas that come out after 17 years and then die. Like it's gonna be a while before we see this kind of mess again. But I think for well, I mean, 47's cast looks pretty cool. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm. Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, I think it looks like a great cast, but of the couple of people that we
If they
recognize,
wanted 47, they should have put on Chappelle.
right? From the couple of people that we recognize from Survivor 47's preview,
Yeah.
saw, of course, great podcaster
Mhm.
Asia Welch, who is like a rather, in my experience, a rather even keeled
Not
person.
messy, no. If they wanted a 46 type season, they should have put on Brandon Chappelle, not Asia. They're going for 45. So, and also, if they really wanted to stick it to our hat, they probably should have put on someone who was gonna get voted out first, like, Sam Moore, you know? "I see you
Yeah,
backstage."
yeah.
Yeah,
Are they trying to stick it to us?
I don't know, but that's what they would do if they wanted to.
Hmm. Okay. All right. Let's keep going with the questions. All right. How about
But
um
actually, also, the
yes.
the true telling of whether or not they loved 46 is if people will be allowed to be messy on Twitter moving forward or not.
Yeah, what do you think is the reason for the change? I feel like you're so tapped in.
I think it is, just,
Was this
inconsistency.
a Yeah, what was this a choice or was this sort of like, like
I think it was, we're
we're
tired,
yeah.
or it didn't catch our attention, or I don't even know, but, when Cagayan happened, famously birthed White Rice Wednesday
Mhm.
for 29 because they weren't allowed to say anything. So I guess we'll see what
Yeah,
40 several
the
brings.
relationship and sort of like the restraints that the network puts on the cast sort of like ebbs and flows over the course of Survivor history. That there are times when it's very laissez-faire, do whatever you want, like or just like like we've got other things going on. And there's other times where they really try to like every tweet you post needs to get approved by us. Do not do anything without checking in with us.
I think I was in
And
that era.
yeah, I think that when the new era came back, I think that they very much were okay. And then certainly then it spiked up again for whatever reasons. And then but now it's really seems to be at a point where they're just let the survivors be the survivors.
They should, and they should let people get messy because that improves engagement. That improves people's love of the show. Can you imagine like being in an interactive community with these crazy people every week? Like that is what's going to get people to keep going. And I think that people who don't feel that way are maybe behind the times, maybe boomers, as they say.
Hmm.
Even millennials are going to be the new boomers soon, though, because I don't, everyone keeps saying that this tweet about um, a Maria me is so funny, but I don't understand why it's funny.
Yeah.
Do you have any insight?
Yes, it's a Taylor Swift reference.
Oh, is it a song?
I believe, in my very limited Taylor Swift lore, I believe that Taylor Swift put out a song that was kind of a diss track to Kim Kardashian, and was basically throwing shade at Kim Kardashian. And um, I believe that the Amy is come on, Rob. Okay. Don't put me on the spot like this. It has to do with it's a Kim Kardashian diss.
Okay, okay. So you are a true Swifty then, and
Mhm.
also I appreciate the insight because I didn't understand. But now I'm
Yes.
seeing the chat; it's very clear. Gotcha.
Yes. Okay. So I knew it's something to do with it. Okay. And because Kim Kardashian really did wrong by Taylor Swift.
Well, Kim Kardashian sucks, so
I think she like
that tracks.
re-edited some audio. It was wild.
Hmm. You
Okay.
know who had a really rough finale though is probably Jem with all of the Taylor Swift references.
She
She's a
hated
real
Taylor
hate.
Swift.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the haters are gonna hate.
Yeah. Hate,
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 hate.
hate, hate,
Yeah.
hate. Yeah.
But were there a ton of Taylor Swift references in the finale?
There was at least 3, and I know that because Marianne's new husband Connor made an over under of 2. And I
Mhm.
said under, and it was over.
Yeah. Really, the Siga idol turned out to be a huge storyline in the season.
More than it ever should have been.
More than it ever should have been. And, you know, we saw that Gem was creating chaos and it was a true game changer. But really, and I got to ask Maria about this morning, about how big of a deal was the Siga idol, not Sia, the Siga idol. And what Maria had said was that what had gone on that wasn't also part of the show was that they had found the like letters from the journey, like the parchment that was from the jury.
Oh.
Remember, Ben went and came back and
Yeah.
didn't tell anybody about like what had happened. And I think that there was like, according to Maria, she said there was like passing of like parchment back and forth between Ben and Tim. And I think that they had found what Ben had gotten on the journey, the tree mail that he got there. And so that was why that there was so much suspicion towards Ben and Tim about how one of them had the idol.
My God, that's exhausting. And I'm glad they didn't put that all in the show.
Mm-hmm.
It was enough of that idol. And you know what? Justice for Gem as well. They didn't even bring her up as a fifth. You know, you would think that they would want to like push the fact that there were 5 idol blindsides, but they totally wrote her off of the story. It was like Karamoan all over again.
Yeah. I thought that overall the Survivor After Show left me wanting more.
This was, you know, was it you that had said that there were so many interesting things that happened and they picked all the least interesting things?
Yeah. All that was missing was like, remember when Mariah couldn't jump?
But I did. Well, okay. The pushing of the Maria Charlie thing, that was somewhat interesting, but it was just
remember
sad
when
to
Maria
watch.
taught everybody to salsa dance?
But why did we?
What
have
is
to
this? A
watch
Big
it,
Brother final 3 recap of the
Yeah.
recap?
Oh yeah. I don't watch that episode anymore.
Mhm.
I stopped watching it long ago because it was so bad.
Yeah.
Remember when Survivor did recap episodes?
Yes.
Yeah, they had one for your season. Both of them.
They did. I think that the last one. Okay, here's your Survivor trivia. What was the last season they did a recap episode?
It was South Pacific. I think.
You're right.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
Yeah.
They should bring it back.
Online,
Well, I think we'd have a lot of fun on RHAP the week of the recap episode.
Okay, all right. I'll do it for you, but I don't think they'll ever do it. It's like Fallen Comrades, which I like, but whatever.
It'd be kind of like a little like week off for us. Like we'd sort of like do like something after the episode, but we probably wouldn't get Steven to talk about the recap episode.
Do we really need though another? I mean, okay, God bless 90 minutes, but do we need another 90 minutes of deleted scenes? I don't.
Are there 90 minutes? Like it was one thing in 39 days. Maybe there was a lot of deleted
What are the
scenes.
things that would have been included if we had another 90 minutes? I think we would have seen multiple episodes of Tim straining to defecate.
Yeah, maybe that's why we need 3 tribes. That's why we can't go back to 2 tribes, because it's like, hey, we got to fill the 90 minutes. We don't have enough stuff. Okay.
Do you think they will go back to 2 tribes, please?
I think that they will eventually there will be a Survivor season where they do 2 tribes, but I don't think it will be anytime soon. I think 50 could be 2 tribes. I think that that's a possibility.
That probably makes sense.
Yeah. Don't do an all-star season with 3 tribes, okay? Trust me. Sucks. Bad idea. Big mistake.
Big mistake. You know what actually was great that they included in your all-stars recap episode was your mock tribal council. That was the most fun.
Yes, that came up on Twitter the other day. Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah.
Wait, were you also there when they sent the letters to another tribe? And if so, who did you send your letter to?
Oh, that's a good question. You want to guess?
Were you the one that started to stir up some drama about the Africa 3?
I don't think so.
Oh wait, that was Alicia. She thought she was doing such a good job.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen that. I think it's on the All Stars DVD. I remember when it happened. I sent a letter to Colby.
And what did you say?
I don't remember. Like, hey, Colbster, what's happening, man? Can't wait to meet you.
With his big white teeth.
See you at the merge. Yeah. Okay. See you at the finale.
You in Argentina.
Yeah, he wasn't with us.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunate.
Okay. All right. Max wants to know who goes home at Final Four if they don't have fire.
Oh, this is another thing that grinds my gears. Can we talk about it? Like, why every time they keep pushing the end of the game forward, it just results in people going home earlier that they want to have at the end of the game. It's actually very counterintuitive. I don't like it. I think it's dumb. Fire is interesting, but not when it's forced. Was this not the worst segment of camp life at Final Four that we have had? Because we have seen this 7 times before.
It's hard for me to rank them. Only 7 times. I feel
I
like,
mean, I was being
several.
facetious.
Yeah.
Several times, but we've seen it several times, and who what is the drama? Who cares anymore? Like, just do a vote.
I mean, so they instituted the Final Four fire making in season 35. So this is what, the 11th, or is it technically the 12th time?
I think the 12th, right?
12th time that we get it.
Yeah.
I have to say, I feel like that, and I've talked about this with Steven a lot. I feel like that when they're actually making the fire, that is, it's an interesting couple minutes of television. I don't know if it would be more interesting than if they voted. But yeah, you're right. Practicing the making fire is, I wonder if they, if it's always like the person that is struggling. I mean, that Carson was struggling and he lost.
Yes. That was compelling, but that was one time. And the thing is, fire was so interesting when it happened organically, but now it's forced, and it's just, the thing is, it's not just that moment. Like, I get that it's interesting for that moment when they're making the fire. You don't know who's going to win. It's not down to anything that you can read sometimes you can read a little bit in the edit, but you know what I mean? Like, anything could happen. But now it's the downstream consequences of having that at 4. It incentivizes a group of 4 to just stick together. You have to vote out the threats earlier, which is not what people want, or not what they would want, I would guess. And how boring was Final Five's vote, because there was no other opportunity to get rid of Maria. Like, if you had a vote at 4, a plus or minus 3, then you have people that will keep in a shield a little bit longer, and it's more interesting, I think.
Yeah. If there was no Final Four fire making, do you think the Final 5 vote would have been different?
I think it very well could have been, because you may have someone like Kenzie or Charlie, who would be the next person on the chopping block, say, okay, well, I can't get rid of Maria now. I need to keep her a little bit longer, and we can get rid of her later. Like, I think that would set up a situation where, in this situation that's currently there, it benefited all 4 people to vote up Maria, and Maria only. But if you have it where there's still votes after.
And also because she could do the fire.
Yes, exactly. But if you have it where it's not that, then it incentivizes some people to get rid of Maria at that point, and some people to keep her. And I think that is more interesting, naturally.
Yeah, because Maria basically had a guaranteed immunity of that. They seem to respect her so much as a fire maker as well.
Exactly. Big mistake, producers.
Big mistake. I don't think that they're ever getting rid of the Final Four fire making. I think as long as Jeff is running the show, I think the Final Four fire making. So it's like, I can't get that worked up about it, because I don't think it's ever changing.
Yes, I see your point, but it is just like, it's not achieving what they want it to achieve.
Yeah. Okay. How about?
But who would have been voted out?
Who would have been voted out?
Well, I think, that would have also been interesting, because are they going to go with Liz because they're an alliance of 3, or are they going to turn on Charlie and Kenzie? Like, I actually don't know what they would have done, but I have a feeling
gone to fire making. Isn't that more interesting to get to that? Because I kind of feel like that they would have the Final Four fire making like every other season.
Yeah, agreed.
It was happening a lot. Like, it happens we get it in 30. We get it in 30, 32. Does it happen in 34? No, they vote a tie, right? Yeah, so I mean, we get it pretty fairly often.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. All right. How about a question from Hybrid Shadow? Did Kenzie bring up that she was in most, if not every single tribal council? Well, she didn't go to Siga went to tribal council that one time.
Yeah, I did not hear that.
There's also a split tribal council.
There's a good chance she could have been voted out next had they gone one more time, or maybe it would have been Q. Who's to say? There's still so much discourse about whether it would have been Banu or Kenzie.
So I asked both Q and Tiff. I'm sorry, I have not asked Tiffany this question. I asked Q last week. Q says that Tiffany changes her answer now. He said, but I feel like that Q is, like, as we saw in the Final Tribal Council, a little bit of an unreliable narrator.
No,
about things.
No.
Sometimes Q says different things, and Kenzie said she does not think that Tiffany was going to vote her out.
Q is not Q is a reliable. If Q was a reliable narrator, shouldn't he be hosting this interview with me right now? Didn't he take this over?
He did say that he was coming to take the podcast. He was firing me. He was going to rob me of an opportunity.
He's gonna Boston rob you.
Yeah. Q also said in his analysis, did you see the secret scene where Q like broke down all the different players in the game?
It was a long time ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. He
I
also
feel like
said,
did, but...
Kenzie, she's not a puzzle solver. She can't solve puzzles.
Oh, well, she almost solved this one.
She did solve the puzzle last night.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it was the combination lock that was the hard part for her.
Right. But she almost did win the ball thing too, until she Steven Fishbacked it.
Yes. Yeah. That cost her.
How long do you think that took? Because that looked pretty easy. I don't know.
I have no idea of how long. I mean, probably 20, 25 minutes. I think I probably would never let the ball even get close to the rail.
Right. It was very Australian Survivor set piece like that.
I mean, didn't they literally do that challenge on Australian Survivor?
Yes, but to be fair, I think the US did it first in Millennials versus Gen X, but it was a smaller scale.
Yes. Did they do it in also the Edge of Extinction? Did Rick Devens win this challenge? I think they did a similar challenge like this.
I don't remember that in that one, but could be wrong.
Okay. Speaking of Rick Devens, okay. Last season, Rick Devens hosted the On Fire podcast. I listened to this morning's episode of the On Fire podcast, and of course, a person who just starred in a commercial for The Quiet Place, day 1, not day 0.
Yes.
Dee Valladares has graduated from the On Fire podcast. Jeff Probst and Jay said, we have not yet decided who next season's co-host of On Fire will be.
Oh.
Who do you think?
Well,
is looking
if they're
like...
listening, I'm available. I'm just kidding. I think that if it's going to be, they probably should keep going with picking somebody from the season. And if they're going to pick someone from this season,
do you think that they, first off, do you think it's on the table they would go backwards? They would go prior to somebody from Survivor 46?
I could see them, but I think if they did that, they would go like old school, pre-40. If I had to pick one from 40 several, I think.
Do you think that like, can you think of somebody who would be like a good addition to the podcast that would be
available?
I kind of feel like that they would not want somebody. I think they would not want somebody from the old era.
Okay.
I think they probably like want to ask.
Marianne would be very fun.
I think Marianne would be great.
Yeah, and I think from 40, Q in theory would be good, but I don't think he would be like a podcast kind of guy, not a podcast Rob kind of guy.
It would be hard to get a word in, I think, if Q was on the podcast.
Charlie would be good, I think.
I think Charlie would be very good at talking things through, for sure. Okay. How about this has been a talking point today. TS Snap says Q said he voted for Kenzie based on his question about how the contestants would spend the money. Should this be off limits as it seems to make the game played pointless? What do you think about contestants asking the Final Tribal Council, how are you going to spend the money?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can outlaw something like that, but I don't love it myself.
Yeah, I don't love it myself, but I feel like this is a bit of a throwback. I feel like that this is like classic Survivor. Going back to the first, I don't remember if it came up in Survivor Borneo, but I definitely remember it coming up in Survivor the Australian Outback.
Yeah, for sure.
And certainly maybe it has some origins in Ethan starting grassroots soccer.
Right. Oh yeah, true that. So I think you can't put it off limits. I think that it is. I don't think that I think that should maybe be I just don't know. I feel like you should vote based on the gameplay. But also, I'm just one person and everybody has their own opinions. And I don't think we can tell people how they should vote. But I'm not a fan personally.
Yeah. Should anybody respond? None of your business.
I don't think that would get any votes. Actually, you know what? I don't know if I should say this. It did come up at our final tribal, but one of the finalists lied.
Was it Romeo?
I shan't say, for the game is afoot.
Yeah. What'd you think about the supercut of all of the iconic phrases in Survivor history?
Oh, I
I
feel like
thought
they
there was
could
some
have
off the
fixed.
wall picks.
Yeah, there was some off the wall picks, and there's some people that are gonna be so insufferable about their, you know, placement in that. But I think that they could have gone. I know I didn't love it, but it was. I don't know. I feel like it's more for YouTube,
Hmm. Okay. Maybe it's an
But
off-season
several is
podcast with Mike
iconic.
Bloom. Several is iconic, but did they run it into the ground?
Not for me.
Okay. It's still fun to say, but I feel like they were getting a little
You know what though?
overboard on
No
several.
one believed Jelinski, including me,
Yeah.
when his interview came out with you. Did you believe him when you were listening to
No.
that?
No, I did not.
And
I thought he was Delulu.
yes, but was he correct?
He was correct. Never
Yeah.
doubt Jelinski.
I'll never forget the moment. I'm just going to say this, even though I shouldn't. But when I met Jelinski for the first time, he was very nice, but he had to take a dump, unlike Tim. He took a dump in Zach and I's room. He left his wallet there and flew back to Las Vegas without it. And then when I saw episode 1, I was like, I get it. Now I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Long live
Okay.
Jelinski.
Long live Jelinski. Yeah. Okay. This is a question for me, I guess. How does it feel to have won the draft? Are you going to force someone to eat chapstick? So we did have our draft. So this typically we have a Survivor podcaster draft that's with 6 people. Many of the people in the draft have won. There's Puya and Taryn and Chappelle,
Many
and
people have not
Liana and Shannon Gus, and even Survivor 47's own Asia Welch. But this season, Asia was not available to participate in the draft. And so I stepped in, and in Asia's place, I won the draft. Now, it came by way of a grenade. I did not have Kenzie, but Taryn had Jelinski.
Oh, man.
And the draft rules stipulate that if you have the grenade, the only way you can get ungrenaded, like Chappelle did with Marianne, was you have to have your other 2 people make the finals and have the winner.
Yeah.
And Taryn's other 2 people were Jelinski and Mariah, neither of which qualified for the finals.
Poor. Yeah, that sucks.
So I had Charlie. Really could have won.
Yeah. Well, if it weren't for Maria,
I had Charlie and Tiffany.
Right.
And
you know what?
Liz who came in 4th place.
This is a good omen for Asia then.
Yes.
Is it not? Are you going to draft her for who?
Well, so then I get to decide the draft order for Survivor 40 several.
Shouldn't you replace you with somebody else?
Shouldn't I replace me with somebody else?
In there, she'd be chaotic as hell.
Well, I think people like to see me draft, no?
Oh, I thought you didn't want to because you didn't do it for years. And this was
I didn't do it for years, but
No, then you know what? It's your spot. You take it. And you know what? You put Shannon where she doesn't want to be in the draft order. That's what I say.
Shannon Gus has not won yet.
Yeah, I know. And she almost won with our season. She got 3. Actually, when we were listening to your draft of ours, it was crazy because Chappelle had to choose between, because he had Zach, he had Mike.
He had the grenade.
Or he had to choose between, he had Marianne. He had to choose between Mike and Jackson. And we were like, this will decide the draft. That is crazy. But he chose right.
He chose wisely. Okay. All right. What else is on your mind? Anything?
No, this was a great season. We're only prepared to do this every 10 years or so. I don't think we can get messy.
Oh my God. Because we could use a break.
Great coverage all season. I've been keeping up. You do good work. And you know what? People should subscribe to be a patron.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, Omar, because we're doing a lot of great stuff over on Patreon. This week had a great conversation about Australian Survivor. Did you hear that they said that they're going to do a season of Australian Survivor versus the world or the USA?
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about, mate. I ain't heard nothing about it.
So I got together with Shannon Gus and Mike Bloom, and we talked about what we know. And speculated quite a bit about what it could look like. We spent a lot of time actually talking about, I think there's been a lot of talk about like what American survivors could play. We talked a lot about what Australian survivors could play as well.
Isn't it all like going to be like Sean, Sharn, Shawnee, Shorn?
Maybe. But that'd be a good twist.
Yeah, I guess
Could they
so.
get Sean from Survivor 45?
Well, he would love to have a second chance. I'm sure he actually would. This
Mm-hmm.
is redemption, baby. And get
Mm-hmm.
Hannah Rose on there while we're at it. And just don't tell her where they're going.
Yeah, because really, what if this whole season is just like propaganda for Australian Survivor of like, we brought in the best America had to offer. Let's
Wait,
see
who else
how
would
they
fit in?
fare.
Can we do okay? So let's cast the American side then. We have Sean, Hannah Rose. I want Wendy Joe on there personally.
How about Big Wendy?
Okay, sure. We can do
Mhm.
that. And then I do want Stacey Powell on there because I feel like we're really setting this up to be her season
Mhm.
because everybody else will quit.
Yeah.
I
Brad?
like it.
Brad from Survivor
Brad Reese,
41?
yes.
Mhm.
Yes. See, Bing Bong gets it. I want to hear the other picks there too.
So, yeah, pretty exciting. Okay. So, we did that over on the patron feed. Also, on Friday, I've been doing the Survivor feedback show with the patrons every Friday at 3 p.m. And so, we'll do that again tomorrow and take calls from the patrons. How about that?
That's wonderful. I think I went on one of those one time back in the day. Maybe I'll stop by again.
Way back when. Okay. All right.
Mhm.
Omar, what's coming up for you?
Nothing really. I've been doing a lot of working, which actually, you know what? For the first time in a long time, I love my job. So how about that? That's great.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's changed?
Well, I got a new job.
Oh, okay.
I
New
hated my
job.
job when I went on Survivor. I was a resident and I thought it was the worst. I was like, I shouldn't have done this job. It sucks. And then I got a new job and I love it now.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Okay. Well, that's great to hear. Well, what are you doing differently? You're not a resident.
I think that the atmosphere of work is much better and I get
Yes.
paid better and there's more appreciation and there's not as much better pay and not as overworked. That's
Okay.
the difference.
That's good.
I still put down a lot of animals and I don't enjoy that, in case you were
Okay.
wondering.
Okay. Good. Good to hear. Okay. Getting some questions about will there be a finale know-it-alls? So Steven is traveling this week. And so I can't promise anything. I think that the plan is we're going to check in with Steven next week and see what there is to talk about next week and whether or not we have enough to do a finale know-it-alls with Steven. And so if Steven's up for it, has some thoughts about Survivor 46 or beyond, we'll catch up with Steven. And then the plan is what?
That's a traitorous comment even. Like, am I not Steven passing enough?
Yeah.
Glasses, nerd.
I thought this was pretty good.
Yeah.
This was Fishback levels to me.
Wait, is that why I have to go to the bathroom right now?
But don't pull a Jelinski, okay? Make sure you have your wallet with you.
Yes,
okay?
always.
People also want a finale Club Condo. Hopefully, we can connect with Chappelle next week and keep track of anything that goes on over the weekend. Do you think that the Survivor 46 drama, do you think it will subside and people go back to, or do you think it'll be continue to be pretty wild for a while?
I hope that it is wild enough, but not like Voldemort levels of wild, if you know what I mean, but like wild enough to be interesting, but not too personal. That's what I want.
Okay. Yeah. Just, keep it relevant. Also, starting next Wednesday, we're going to be having a Summer of Survivor here on RHAP. Mike Bloom and Shannon Gus are going to be headlining our weekly Survivor coverage on a variety of different topics. We'll do drafts, we'll do panels, some think tanks along the way. So we'll be doing that on Wednesdays all through the Survivor off season. So I'm very excited about what we have planned there and more. That's the tip of the iceberg, Omar.
Is that Without Playout list coming back?
We might do that, but I don't think it's going to be exclusively one thing.
Oh, someone in the chat asked if I think the fishy is underappreciated. And
Yes.
I would like to take this opportunity, in fact, to call out Stephen Fishback because I'm going to dig up some old scars here. So back in the day, he was giving out fishies. And he said for one of the episodes, if I do recall correctly, episode 9, he said, I should give it to Omar, but he'll understand. He won't really want it. I'll just give it to these other people as a co-fishy. And I said, lies. Like, I appreciate the fishy, and I was robbed. And now on the fact checker list,
you don't have it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, did you see that we started giving out the Fishy Award digitally to the players this season?
I did not see that.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Is it like a little statue of a fish with his face on it?
I don't think it has Steven's face, but it is a statue of a fish.
Oh, but it should have. It should be a statue of a fish. I'll workshop something, but that would be fun if it had his face on it. And also Steven with gills and a cloaca. Like, my God.
Mm-hmm. I think it's just a fish with glasses.
Okay, that's good enough, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Omar, thank you so much for stopping by and doing this. This was a great treat, and I'm so excited we got to talk about everything that's going on.
Likewise, thank you for having me.
Yeah. And if you missed it, check out my exit interviews with the Final Five. I thought everybody had very interesting things to say about the game. And then patrons, I will talk to you on Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much for joining us. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.